I belong to a fishing club just east of Raleigh. We got a 150-acre lake, 50 acres under the swamp at the lake. My son and I would all the time go fishing up there in 2 different boats. He'd have his wife with him, and they'd have a walkie-talkie, and I'd have a walkie-talkie. We'd talk back and forth about what we were catching and what was going on. And one day he called me. We would hear these barred owls calling in the swamp. And once in a while we'd see them fly through the swamp. And one day he called me on his walkie-talkie and he said, "Dad, there's an owl over here watching my lure as it comes across the surface of the water." And he called me 10 minutes later and he said, "We just saw the owl fly into a hollow tree and we think we know where its nest is." And sure enough, I went over there and there's the barred owl sitting in the entrance of a big hollow tree way up the top. So it's pretty definite that's where the nest was. Well, about 2 months later, I got to thinking, if I carried my little recorder of a barred owl call and played it, what would happen? I mean, would they ignore it? Would they come? What would happen? So I played it, and what happened was a young owl flew over and circled around. I think, in retrospect, I think he was looking for his parent. What he found was me in that little recorder. But each day I'd play it. He'd come, looking around. He'd like the tree, look. Eventually began to hoot back to me. So we began to have a conversation back and forth. When my friend said, "He's marking you." Well, the question, who's marking who here? I mean, we're starting off with a recorder marking a bird, and here he is marking a recorder and all that stuff. Well, anyway, I decided I was going to try to train him and try to feed him. And so eventually, I carried a dead squirrel up there, and I had a little owl. And he would light the tree and I'd throw a dead squirrel in there and it would bounce a few times like that. And when it did, he would watch it. I mean, really intent on that. But when it didn't move, he lost total interest in the thing. I would go, come back in 30 minutes, still be there. I'd take that one away. A couple of days later, I brought it over and went through the same thing. It's obvious he wanted something alive and the squirrel wasn't going to do it. So then I started catching fish, especially little cold and shiners, and carrying them up there. I'd throw the fish on the island. He'd watch me and flopped on the island like that. But he wouldn't come, I was too close. When I'd back off, I'd come back in 5 minutes and he'd be gone. So each day when I'd carry a fish, I'd throw it, I'd back off, but each time I backed off a little bit less, a little bit less, a little bit less. So after a while, I got to where I would be closer than me and you would throw it, he'd come down and get the fish. The next phase was I wanted to train him to come down between these 2 trees so I could photograph him, especially late afternoon. So he'd light on a limb over here, over there, whatever, and almost unbelievable. I'd go over there and say, "Go over." And if he didn't go, I'd take a fishing pole, tap him on this side, "Go over there, go." Eventually I got him glued. That very limb I wanted him to light on. That became his feeding perch. And so I'd go up and throw him a fish and he'd come get it. Well, one day I was up in the swamp. I have 44 wood duck boxes up there. I keep up with the eggs and the hatching and the baby ducks and doing some banding and tagging and stuff. And I was up there checking one. I got up earlier. I usually get to him about sunset. But I was up there earlier counting the wood duck nest. And I looked, there was some motion up over my head like that. I looked up and there's an owl. And as soon as I saw him and he knew I recognized him, he flew back to the feeding perch and waited for me. And I thought, wait a minute, who's training who here now? He's training me to bring him that fish. So from that time on, we've had a relationship. Sometimes he would find me in the swamp, come and sit over me, call to me and everything. And most times he's either waiting for me when I go up there, or I call him, "Hootie, Hootie, Hootie," and he comes and lights on that perch. Same perch every time. And I throw that fish, and he comes and gets it. And he sometimes flies right by, but usually he'll do a U-turn and go back over there and sit on the limb and eat it. If it's a small fish, he swallows it down like a kid eating spaghetti. It's a bigger fish, he has to pick it apart. So he'll eat one, and then he'll turn back like, and you got another one over there, and so I'll throw another one to him. And I've taken this has been going now for 10 years. The spring will have been 10 years when I first started. I've taken about 300 people up to see him, mostly kids. And I wrote 2 articles. I went up to a Wildlife in North Carolina magazine called The Owl. Probably the most successful magazine article I have written for Wildlife in North Carolina, out of about 30. And I say that because of the number of people who wrote to the editor commenting about it. 4 people got in touch with me and wanted to make a painting based on the owl picture, which I said, go ahead and do it. 2 people made wooden carvings of an owl. One lady made a little ceramic owl and a little diorama with a little swamp scene and gave it to me. And I've never had anything like that happen before. But my friend Jack Dermott, who's been my mentor, one of my mentors, I should have mentioned that earlier, said, you have got to do a children's book about that relationship. And so I did. I wrote one called My Friend Hootie. It's written as a children's book. A little bit of a challenge for me as a scientist and an administrator to write a children's book, but I did. And I had the pictures to go with it. So it's got 23 pictures in there, and including all the things I've just told you about. And I've taken 23. I did 300 people up there. And most of them have been amazed. I mean, a lot of them never even seen an owl. They've never seen one come 3 or 4 feet from them like that, repeatedly. And he's unaffected by how many people I take, unaffected by flash. He's just right there to do his thing. And if I'm taking a little too long to get the fish ready and everything, he comes and sits there and waits for me. I mean, sometimes so close I have to throw the fish behind him. And but anyway, it's been a great relationship for 10 years. So that's the story. The book is here, and as they give me about 45 seconds to tell about it, I'll tell. It had been selected by the Outdoor Writers of America as the #1 children's book. Amazon.com has a way for reviewers to review the book, and there have been 11 reviewers. All of them have been 5 stars. And the third thing is about 10% of the people who have gotten the book, I've sold about 500 incidents, about 10% of the people who've gotten the book have come back for more. So that's my story. That's my sales pitch.